record and share the screen. So today's topic is about the relationship in MongoDB, right? Or NoSQL database. Why? I don't know why it's on top now. It should be in the middle of the screen. Learning a new concept, relationship in database, right? So this week is very tough because we didn't have enough class and we still have to go through all the materials. And some concept is very new to you, for example, database and router controllers, those kind of stuff. It's okay. You struggle, you should struggle. Yeah, that's how we learn. Yes, almost there. 2 more weeks and we reach the final project. Yeah, I love final project. All right, so today's topic is about relationship in general, right? As we know, we have 2 different kind of database, right? Today we only learn about NoSQL database, but it's for relationship is very similar to SQL because NoSQL try to adapt from the good points from the SQL database, the traditional database. So right now we have, I have to mention about relationship. It's very easy to understand. Relationship is just like how different documents are related to each other, right? Just that, nothing else. So let's think, take 1 minute to think about your bookkeeping app. What's the relationship in that app? Can you tell me? You have already done that. First relationship, author and book. Second, genre and what? Genre and book. And what else? Huh. All right, correct. Like basically, you can relate book with genres, with author, or with the owners, right? So those are relationship in the bookkeeping app. But you can actually, there are 3 types of relationship. This one should be, it's not contact info, it's more like bio info, biography, something like that, not contact, because one user can have a couple of contact info, right? Yeah, kind of biography. For example, your age, your full name, your like father, your mother, something like that. So normally you have one-on-one relationship with from the user account with the biography, right? And one-to-many, or you can call many-to-one, is like when you have relationship between the book and the owner. So basically, an owner can have multiple books, right? Owner can have multiple books, or many books can belong to an owner. So that's one-to-many relationship. And many-to-many relationship, you can relate to the genres. You have multiple genres, and you have multiple books. For one genre can have multiple books, as well as one book can belong to many genres. Just like that. So as you can see here, right? Questions? From these one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many, you can relate to many other stuff. For example, we will talk about more. So let me ask you, a user and a shipping address, what is the relationship, the type? One-to-many, correct. So one user can have many shipping address, right? Addresses. So here you go. One user can, actually one-to-many, we can like split it down into 3 different sections. One to a few, right? Like we have said earlier, one user can have just a couple of addresses. You also have one-to-many, which is one user can create a bunch of blogs, right? Or create a bunch of reviews, for example. And you have something else called one to a ton, meaning an application, like our application can have a whole ton of logs. For example, when you go to Heroku log tails, when you bring that, when you enter that command on your terminal, right? You see a word of text, and it's not gonna end unless you stop your server or you end your server. So that log's gonna add up to unlimited amount, almost. So we can describe it into 3 different categories: one to a few, one to many, and one to a ton. And based on these 3, you can define how we structure our database later on. But just keep in mind, we can have one to many, we can have 3 different like use case. One to a few. One user can have only a couple of addresses, or one user can only have a couple of contact info, right? And one user can, for example, in your next project, which is the Airbnb.com, one user can only create like 100 of events. So that's one to many, the normal one to many. But for the, I would say, let's click on this. For example, for the images here, right? One event can only have a couple of images, right? Nothing else, no more. So that's one to a few. And one to a ton, you rarely see it. Maybe it's in the chat app, you have a user that can chat like 1 million chats in a month, for example. So that's kind of like a ton. So we can narrow down in 3 cases here. Keep in mind, when you design your database, just keep in mind this information. And so to model our database, we have 2 techniques or 2 approaches: embedding or referencing. Embedding means you store all the related data in just one single document, everything in one single document, almost everything. And by doing that, it makes it very easy to retrieve or to insert data, to retrieve or to maintain. Not really maintain. Maintain is okay here. It depends, but it's very easy to retrieve, and I would say write the data, because everything in one place. If you want to do something or you want to read something, just go in there and find and change it. That's it. That's how we embed. Here's an example. It looks so. I need to make sure that people here is hearing. Hello. I forgot about them. Oh my God. Feel bad. All right. This is bad. I don't know why it looks like this. How does it look on your computer? Do you have these slides? Same? Really? Oh, I mean on your laptop. Open this slide, this URL on your laptop, not using CSS. You will see it different. It's more. Here. Right, different, right? It's very hard to see it like this here.
We only have the slides for Monday, by the way.
Huh?
We only have the slides for Monday. We don't have the slides for
slides.codeschool.vn@cw underscore. What is it? No, it looks different. This one is actually using Markdown and React together. Markdown and React. No, it should be like more wide. That's weird. Right. Okay. So this is a book document, right? This is how MongoDB looks. And inside, it's very hard to see, but please bear with it. We have a key called ID, and the value is an object ID, right? We also have genre is an array. Inside array, there's a bunch of objects here. Only one object for now, but we can have multiple objects. And each object have the ID and the genre name, right? Same thing for the author. It's another object. Inside that, we have the ID of the author and the name. Everything is included, embedded in this document. So when you return, when you query it, and then you return it to the client. It's very easy to, you just need to run one query and you have everything. You have all the data. Okay, we have the first embedding document and the second embedding document and the third one, right? Okay, so it's very, everything is embedded in one single document and it can be retrieved in one single query. For example, book.file1 and the ID. There's pros and cons, of course. Pro is you can query, retrieve the data in one query, file1 and you get it. Cons is if the data grow in size, keep growing, then you have to embed a lot of things in there. So it's gonna expand, right? And when it's expand like that, it can affect the read and write performance. Right. We'll talk about it more. We understand more. Don't worry. Right now, you don't see the difference though. And it's difficult to update the related document. I will explain why. For example, if you want to update the owner information for here, if I want to, for some reason, I'm the owner of that book, right? I'm not the author, I'm the owner. I want to change my name. Like who in the world would like change your name? But I want to change my name from Khoa to Khoa A. And then if I have 100 books, then I have to find 100 documents and I have to change my name in those 100 documents, right? One by one. I have to change one by one. That's why I say it's difficult to update. You may forget to update in 1 or 2 documents. It's not the end of the world, but it's bad. That's why we have another approach, referencing approach, which is very similar to the traditional database, SQL. And here, instead of storing the whole object, we only store the object ID. And we will use the object ID to reference to the document that we want to relate to. Okay, so here's the example, the same document, but now we use referencing approach. So instead of storing the object, now we store just the ID. Object ID means the ID. It's very similar, author, same thing, and owner here. So using this approach, there are also pros and cons. Okay, there's also pros and cons. Oh, wait, I will go back here later. So pros is less bulky, as you know, as you see in the document, it's very clean. And it's consistent from this document to this another document. Like, for example, in here, if you store an object, this object may have a field or another field that the other object doesn't have. That's not consistent when you look at the database as a whole. But here it's very consistent because you only store the ID. Okay, but there are cons. If you want to query all the data related to that document, you have to run additional queries because you have to run another queries to find the data using the IDs. So in this example, in that example, we have 1, 2, and 3 IDs. So that means we have to run 3 additional queries to find the data. And then it can slow down your performance. And it's very hard to scale horizontally. Meaning, if you have like if you have an array of 10 items in there, then you have to run 10 additional queries. And that's why I say it's very hard to scale horizontally. And MongoDB is very good at scaling horizontally because it can use embedding technique approach. So it's all about trade-off. Sometimes you use referencing, sometimes you use embedding. There's no absolute right or wrong. Depends on how you structure your database, on how the application logic, like on the requirements of your app, for example. And we will have a couple of tips on how to decide which approach we are going to use. But let's go back and take a look at the referencing. We have a couple of types about referencing. So these types, it's not too important, but it's good to know. We have child referencing, we have parent referencing, we also have two-way referencing. It sounds scary, but it's not. It's actually not. It sounds scary, but it's not. Let's see what child referencing is. For child referencing is, for example, you have a relationship with user and book, right? Book and author, I mean, book and author or book and user. For user, you store an array of books like this, meaning you keep the ID inside your parent document. For example, I'm a user and I have a couple of books, so I keep an array and put all the IDs in there. So that's one way to reference. That's called child referencing. Same thing for author and books. An author can have a couple of books or multiple books. This way is okay, but there's also pros and cons. We'll talk about later. And this is parent referencing. The same example. Instead of keeping the IDs, the reference inside user and author, now we keep the reference in the book. That's called parent referencing. So this book will belong to this owner or this written by this author. Okay. So now can you answer what's different between these two way of referencing? What is pros and cons? We have two ways, right? User and book, author and book, and then book owner. This should be user and book's author, right? They do the same thing, but there are pros and cons. That's two-way referencing, but there's a reason why we should not do this. So in this case, we should not do this because a user can have like 1,000 books, right? If you put 1,000 ID here, it doesn't make any sense. Not really, doesn't make sense, but it's weird. It's very slow down your performance when you want to query. Yeah, so that's why I say it depends on the type of one-to-many. For example, one-to-many relationship, you have 3 different types, right? So based on those information that we will decide how we model our database. Okay. So this one work, this also work, but this way is better. It's cleaner, and then we can have as many books as we want. And each book only have one owner, maybe 2, maybe 3, but usually a couple of owners, maybe, or a couple of authors at most. That's why parent referencing in this case is better. We also have two-way referencing, which is kind of like the child and parent combined together. But we don't run into this case that often. Right, and so here, a couple of tips on deciding which approach we want to take. Right, so before making a decision, here's a couple of priority. So we need to understand the relationship type, how the two data sets, like the two collections, are related to each other. So is it one-to-many or is it one-to-one? Is it many-to-many? Those kind of stuff we need to understand it first, and then we need to take a look at the data access pattern, like how often is the data read and written, meaning the read and write ratio. For example, that data you want to read it like 1,000 times, but you only update it a couple of times. For example, can you tell me an example of that case? Correct. You rarely change the name of the author, right? So that's a very high read and write ratio, meaning maybe user will go to your site 1,000 times, but the owner only update the name only once in a while. Kind of like very high read and write ratio. Also, data closeness, how much the data is related and how we want to query. For example, in this case, in this case, the image is here. What is their purpose? What is their purpose? This image right here. No, I'm talking about the experience, this experience, and the images here. I would say these images here just represent for the cover image for this experience, right? Nothing else. It cannot be the cover images for other experience at all. Only for this one. And we are not going to use the images for any other purpose, almost. So that's how they are related to each other. And we almost never want to query them like separately at all. So that you can use an array of images here, there, in that document. Yeah. So it depends on the pattern, the data closeness, and the type of relationship that we will design our database. See a couple of tips, more. So if the data is mostly static and we don't change it that frequently, meaning a very high read and write ratio we mentioned earlier, and they really belong to each other, like the images for each movie only for one purpose, to represent that movie only, right? Just like the experience and the images there. And also each user has a couple of addresses, and we only use addresses for that use only unless we have other purposes. Like we want to advertise something, we want to leak the data or something. Else, we only use those addresses for that user only, right? And you should use referencing when the data is changed a lot, updated a lot, right? So that you don't have to go into every single document to change it. You only change it in one place. For example, author and book, you only change it in the author collection, one document only, and then all the other documents will be updated as well. It's not really updated, but everything is the same because they only store the IDs, nothing else. If it has a low read and write ratio. So these kind of stuff right now, it may not make many sense to you, but just you can keep this note, then keep it somewhere next to you, and then when you design your database, take a look at this and decide which approach you want to use, right? If you want to frequently update your database, your data set, or you want to use it separately, then you can use referencing approach. And that's pretty much it, though. Yeah. So that's it. In summary, referencing is how we do stuff traditional way, SQL way. And embedding is how we do stuff in MongoDB way, original MongoDB. And then that's where we combine embedding and reference together. Sometimes you want to do it, but just don't. There's some special case you want to like combine embedding and referencing together, but usually you don't. So
embedding is when you put like a whole document inside another field.
Yes, inside a field, for example, yeah.
Referencing about what is ID, then we can reference it.
Yeah. Yes.
What is a good approach? Like, for example, if you have one book and there's a lot of comments.
One book and a lot of comments. So I would say this. Yeah, comments. You put the reference in the comments. So here's a book, comments, right? Here's a book, so like that, so that you don't pollute the book documents, right? So you can try to play around with how you design database. It's very good. It's fun. Any other questions?
Okay, so when they try to find records inside database, right? What we actually the actual way of them modify writing and string to string.
Find what?
Like for example, the ID or the name
Or
the
the
username.
username.
So the username is here. So when they try to find that one, they compare the name of the from the query and the name in the document.
So for example, what type of document like? So that's an example of book. You're talking about embedding? Not really.
I want to know the actual way
They
can find that.
So we have two way of reference of define relationship, right? So if we model it as in the embedding approach like this, if you want to find books with the owner khóa, for example, then you can just put you query owner.name khóa. That's one way for embedding. But if we structure it using referencing, then we need to use the ID, right?
What I want to ask.
Yes.
For example, the description, the introduction to JavaScript. So if I want to find some reference with exactly the right aspect.
Introduction to such.
The description.
Yeah.
So if I like do the query, if I try to do the query, book, find, open bracket, description, introduction to JavaScript.
Like this?
Yes. Yeah. So they will go through every record and they will compare that one with the real value inside the database.
Oh, this is a different question. So there's another way. If you want to run a query list, that's how you write a query, right?
Yes.
No. But from the underlying process, database doesn't go into every single document and find it. Actually, if you have index, right? If you mark an index, it will try to, for example, in this case, normally you want to find title or description. If you have index on title or description here, the database actually have something that will sort it first. So it's kind of like sorting algorithm. And it will try to like, if you check, if the text is I, the character I, start with character I, it should be around like the first half of the collections.
Only happen if you put the index on the.
Yeah. So if you don't have index, it's gonna slow down the shot. If you have the index, it's gonna speed up the shot a lot. For example, it knows that I should be on the first half of the collection, right? So it's only target that first half. It's fast if you have index. But you don't have index, it's gonna take a while if you have a very huge collection. Right?
So what you need to find index?
No, index here is a different thing. It's more advanced. Index here is like how database work. If you normally search on the title, right?
Yeah.
Usually if you want to speed up the process, you want to mark the index on the title field. So on default, MongoDB will have an index on the unique field.
Yeah.
So basically it's the ID, right? The ID is unique. So by default, there will be an index on the ID here. So that's why finding by ID is very fast. It's the fastest way to find something. And then if you have the index on the title field, and then find by title is also fast. Right? No, if you index every single field, it's gonna slow down the whole process. Actually, yeah, there's a pros and cons, and there's a technique in picking which field to mark the index. Right? That's another topic. So if you're interested in that, you can read more, like how to index, or which the best way to index, right? So that's why we learn the sorting algorithm. That's the technique, the underlying process of the database. Right. Any other questions? All right. So keep in mind and keep this note together with you. Right. From this part, 1, 2, 3. Only 3 you can write down. Very short. All right. And you can also draw some example in your note if you want. So that's it for the theory. Yay. 45 minutes, no, not really. 40 minutes. Oh, only half an hour. Oh, sorry. Just the theory, referencing, like Bao said, it's very easy, but it's not really. But I always say reference is very easy. Only 3 types of relationship. He say, yes, it's correct. There are only 3 types of relationship in traditional way. Yes. Here we go. One-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. Yes, but one-to-many is very hard, and many-to-many as well. One-to-many is you have different type way to define your model. You can store the relationship on the using parent referencing or child referencing or many-to-many referencing based on these, right? So that's the whole theory or the whole concept about reference relationship. I think it's good to know to go now. With just these information, you can actually build a lot of things. And then when you are more advanced, you can think about how to improve the speed of your application. So right now, worry to make it work first. Focus on making it work. Right. So that's it. If you don't have any other question, I'm gonna stop the video here. Oh, that's still sleeping, I guess. Hello. Hi. All right, you pay attention in the morning. I heard that you don't get concentrated in the afternoon, right? Try your best. Wow, explain. God. Oh wow, I saw it. Wow.